It's 2019. A developer, let's call her Sarah, has been stuck on a bug for 3 hours. Her code won't compile. Her deadline is tomorrow morning. So, she does what every programmer on Earth does. She opens Stack Overflow and types her question. 14 seconds later, her question gets a downvote. 30 seconds after that, a comment. This has already been answered. Did you even bother searching? Within 2 minutes, her question is closed. Marked as duplicate. Slammed shut by a moderator with 200,000 reputation points who spent less time reading her question than she spent writing it. Sarah stares at the screen. She clicks the link to the so-called original answer. It was written in 2011. It's about jQuery. She's using React. The answer is completely, utterly useless. She closes the tab, and she never posts on Stack Overflow again. Now, here's what makes this story terrifying. Sarah isn't one person. She's millions of people. And the website that did this to her? It was once the single most important website in the history of software development. There was a time when every single programmer on planet Earth had one browser tab permanently open, Stack Overflow. It was the Google of coding, the Wikipedia of programming, the single most important website in the history of software development. At its peak, it attracted over 100 million monthly visitors. It held the answer to virtually every coding question ever asked. Fortune 500 companies paid millions to recruit from its platform. It was valued at over $1.8 billion. And then, it all started to unravel. Traffic plummeted. The decline didn't start in 2022 when ChatGPT launched. It started 8 years earlier, when artificial intelligence was still a fantasy and the iPhone 6 was brand new. Stay with me because the twist is this. AI didn't start the collapse. The collapse started years earlier, and the receipts are right there in the data. The origin, 2 bloggers and a broken system. The year is 2008. George Bush is still in the White House. The iPhone is still a baby. Google feels magical. And if you're a software developer stuck on a bug at 2 a.m., your options are awful. You can post on a forum and wait days, therefore your project sits dead in the water. Or you can dig through documentation that reads like it was written for robots. Or worse, you can click an answer on a site like Experts Exchange, only to have it blurred out behind a paywall like a ransom note. Developers were furious because the Q&A system for programming was broken. Then 2 internet rock stars show up with a fix. Jeff Atwood, the blogger behind Coding Horror. Joel Spolsky, the former Microsoft program manager behind Joel on Software. They were developers. They spoke the language. And in 2008, Atwood lays out a mission that sounds almost innocent now. There's too much programming knowledge buried in forums, buried in help docs, hidden away in places nobody can find. So they want to unlock it and put it online in a form that's trivially easy to find. The idea is simple, but it's dangerous in the best way. Anyone can ask. Anyone can answer. The crowd votes, therefore the best answer rises. You earn reputation points and unlock privileges. And one little green checkmark, the accepted answer, becomes the crown jewel. They name it Stack Overflow, a joke pulled straight from a classic programming error. The site launches in 2008, private beta in the summer, public shortly after. And the internet responds like it's been waiting for this exact thing. The rocket ship, building an empire. Stack Overflow didn't just succeed. It didn't just grow. It dominated in a way that almost no website before or since has ever dominated its category. By 2009, barely a year after launch, the model was working so well that Atwood and Spolsky expanded it into something bigger. By 2010, Stack Overflow was already one of the top 100 most visited websites on the entire internet. In 2 years, from nothing. By 2013, it had 2.7 million registered users and over 5 million questions answered. By 2014, it was pulling in over 50 million unique monthly visitors and hitting a peak of roughly 200,000 brand new questions every single month. 200,000 every month. Think about the volume of human knowledge being generated in real time. By 2019, the monthly visitor count had swelled past 100 million. The platform even produced its own legends. John Skeet, a Google engineer from Reading, England, became the all-time #1 contributor. Behind the scenes, the company was raising serious money to keep the machine running. $6 million, $12 million, $40 million, total venture capital raised. Over $170 million. But the cracks? The ones that had been quietly spreading through the foundation for years? It starts with cruelty. The poison inside. How the community turned on itself. Here's a number that should bother you, 2014. Because if you pull up the graph of monthly questions asked on Stack Overflow, you'll see that the growth peaks right around 2014. And then it starts to slide. Slowly at first. Then faster. Then much, much faster. And in 2014, artificial intelligence was still mostly science fiction. ChatGPT wouldn't be born for another 8 years. So, what happened? To answer that, I need to tell you about a 13-year-old kid. This kid, let's not name him, but he's shared his story publicly, was trying to learn how to code. So, this kid turned to Stack Overflow. He posted his first question. And within minutes, it was downvoted, criticized, and closed. Duplicate. Off topic. Did you even try searching first? He was 13. He didn't know how to search properly. He didn't know what he didn't know. That's literally the definition of being a beginner. But Stack Overflow, the site that was supposed to help people like him, made him feel stupid, made him feel like an intruder, made him afraid to ever ask again. Now multiply that experience by millions. Because that kid's story wasn't unusual. It was the norm. Here's what was happening underneath the surface. The same reputation and voting system that made Stack Overflow so powerful had created a rigid, ruthless hierarchy. A caste system, essentially. At the top sat a small group of power users, people with reputation scores in the hundreds of thousands. These were the people who had answered thousands of questions, earned tens of thousands of upvotes, and accumulated enough privilege to close questions, edit posts, delete content, and essentially decide who was welcome on the platform and who wasn't. And over time, gradually, then suddenly many of these power users became gatekeepers, bouncers at an exclusive club they felt they owned. Questions started getting closed within minutes of being posted, sometimes seconds. A brand new developer would carefully type out their problem, hit submit, and before they could even refresh the page, closed as duplicate. Or off topic, or unclear what you're asking. Or, and this one was particularly infuriating, opinion-based. Stack Overflow was sending a clear, unmistakable message to every junior developer on Earth. We don't want you here. People didn't want to read some dusty relic from 2012. They wanted the latest question and the latest answer. But Stack Overflow's duplicate-obsessed culture made that impossible, because posting a new version of an old question was treated like a crime. Stack Overflow was technically full of high-quality answers, but many of those answers were aging, outdated, slowly becoming wrong, and the system actively prevented new, updated answers from replacing them. The site was becoming a museum. Stack Overflow's leadership eventually acknowledged the toxicity problem. In 2018, they published a blog post with a title that said everything. Stack Overflow isn't very welcoming. It's time for that to change. When Stack Overflow introduced new codes of conduct, stricter moderation guidelines, and inclusivity initiatives, the power users revolted. Stack Overflow fired a longtime volunteer moderator named Monica Celio over a dispute about the company's new pronoun usage policy. Dozens of moderators resigned in solidarity. Longtime contributors declared boycotts. Trust, already fragile, shattered completely. They needed their community to create content for free, but they were simultaneously trying to change the community's culture. And the community refused to change. The power users felt like owners. They'd spent years, decades, some of them, building their reputation scores, earning their green check marks, curating the knowledge base. In their minds, they were Stack Overflow. Not the company, not the executives, them. And in a very real sense, they were right. Without their free labor, the platform was an empty shell. But their behavior was poisoning the well. New users weren't just leaving, they were never arriving in the first place. The pipeline of fresh contributors was drying up. It was becoming a finished reference book. And a finished book doesn't need new authors. The silent competitors, Discord, Slack, and the great fragmentation, while everyone was watching the front door, waiting for the big, dramatic competitor that would challenge Stack Overflow directly, the real threat slipped in through the back. Starting around 2015 and accelerating rapidly, something quiet but seismic was happening in the developer world. Communities were fragmenting into private spaces, Discord servers, Slack workspaces, Telegram groups. Every major framework, every popular library, every programming language started building its own dedicated community. Some of these servers had 10,000 members. Some had 50,000. Some had hundreds of thousands. And here's what made them genuinely dangerous to Stack Overflow. They were nice. Not sometimes nice. Not nice-ish. Dramatically, transformatively friendlier than Stack Overflow had ever been. Beginners posted basic questions and got patient, thoughtful responses. Follow the money. The corporate pivot that abandoned the community. Remember Prashant Chandrasekhar? The enterprise software executive who took over as CEO when Joel Spolsky stepped away in 2019? Under his leadership, Stack Overflow made a bet. The company leans harder into enterprise, Stack Overflow for teams. And that makes sense financially, but culturally, it lands differently because the public community starts to feel like the free content factory powering the paid product. Then another key piece breaks. Stack Overflow sunsets parts of its recruiting ecosystem, including the jobs product in 2022. And that matters more than people realize. When that fades, a quiet question hits contributors. If this doesn't help my career anymore, and it doesn't feel good anymore, why am I still here? The biggest missed opportunity. Before we get to the AI chapter, the extinction event, there's one question that haunts this entire story. Why did Stack Overflow never build a VS Code plugin? I need you to sit with this for a second. Stack Overflow had the richest, most comprehensive coding Q&A dataset in human history. Over 50 million questions and answers, meticulously categorized, community curated, covering virtually every programming language, every framework, every library. And where do developers spend their entire working day? In their code editor. The move was right there, staring them in the face. Build a plugin. Put it inside VS Code, the most popular code editor in the world, used by tens of millions of developers daily. A developer hits a bug, highlights the error, and boom, relevant Stack Overflow answers appear right there. In the editor, no context switching, no opening a browser tab, no typing a query into Google, no navigating to a website, just instant answers exactly where the developer already is. This is exactly what GitHub Copilot did when it launched. This is what every AI coding assistant does today. They brought the answers to where the developer was already working. Stack Overflow could have been Copilot before Copilot existed. They had the data, they had the brand, they had the trust, they had everything, and they did nothing. There's a principle in tech that every successful product company understands instinctively. Integration is king. Ease of access always wins. If you have something valuable, you don't make people come to you. You go to them. You embed yourself in their workflow. You make it so easy to use your product that not using it feels like the weird choice. Stack Overflow violated this principle for over a decade. They had the world's greatest coding knowledge base, and they kept it trapped on a website, waiting for people to visit, waiting for Google to send traffic, waiting while one by one smarter companies, OpenAI, GitHub, Anthropic, Google, figured out how to take that knowledge and deliver it better, faster, and exactly where developers needed it. Stack Overflow literally cornered the market on developer knowledge. And then they watched while everyone else figured out what to do with it. The extinction event, AI changes everything. November 30th, 2022. A date that will live in infamy, at least if you're Stack Overflow. That's the day OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public. And suddenly developers can do something they've never been able to do before. Ask a question in plain English. Paste messy code. Ask follow-ups. Get a personalized explanation. Get a fix. Iterate instantly. No judgment. No dombotes. No, this has been asked before. No, closed as duplicate. No, opinion-based. No moderator with 200,000 reputation points swooping in to slam the door in your face. Just an answer. Instantly. Politely. Patiently. Stack Overflow closed questions as duplicates. ChatGPT treated every question like it was the first time anyone had ever asked it. Stack Overflow required you to leave your code editor, open a browser, search Google, navigate to a website, read through multiple answers, and then copy-paste back into your editor. ChatGPT could be embedded directly in your workflow, inside your editor, inside your terminal, a keystroke away. Then came the Claude AI from Anthropic, Gemini from Google, and Grok. Then rest is history. They started to compete each other, and Stack Overflow wasn't even in the race. People chose the AI. Every single time. The traffic data told the story with brutal clarity. Stack Overflow's traffic dropped approximately 35% in 2023 compared to 2022. Some estimates put the decline closer to 50% from its all-time peak. The number of new questions asked per day collapsed. Answer rates cratered even faster, because why would you volunteer your time answering questions on a dying platform when AI was doing it for free? By 2025, the monthly question count had fallen to roughly 4,000 to 10,000 questions per month, down from 200,000 at the peak. Read that again. From 200,000 to 4,000. A 98% decline. 17 years of growth erased. The site had returned to where it started in 2008. Perfect, devastating circle. Stack Overflow's initial response to the AI wave was predictably defensive. In December 2022, they banned AI-generated answers on the platform. In April 2024, the company announced a partnership with OpenAI. Yes, that OpenAI. The company whose product was actively destroying Stack Overflow's traffic. The deal gave OpenAI access to Stack Overflow's entire archive, decades of community-created knowledge, to train its AI models. In exchange, Stack Overflow would receive financial compensation and attribution in ChatGPT responses. Then came a similar deal with Google licensing Stack Overflow data for Gemini. The community's reaction was incandescent, white-hot fury. And honestly, can you blame them? Think about what this meant. Really think about it. Millions of developers had spent years. Some had spent the better part of their careers writing answers on Stack Overflow. For free. They did it because they believed in the mission. They did it because they wanted to help other humans. And now, the company took all of that work, all of that donated time, all of that expertise, all of those late nights and carefully crafted explanations, and sold it to the very company that was making them irrelevant. Without asking individual contributors for permission, users started deleting their answers in protest, trying to take back what they'd given. But Stack Overflow made bulk deletion difficult, citing the Creative Commons license that all contributions were posted under. Technically, the company had the legal right to do whatever it wanted with the content. But technically legal and morally right are two very different things. The community's escape hatch, sealed shut. The trust, gone beyond any possibility of repair. Stack Overflow had taken its community's greatest gift to the world, a living, breathing library of human knowledge, and turned it into a licensing deal. The sale. Perfect timing or perfect foresight? Here's a detail that adds a layer of dark comedy to this entire saga. In June 2021, a full year and a half before ChatGPT launched, before the traffic cliff, before the mass panic, Stack Overflow was acquired by Prosus, a Dutch-listed investment company and subsidiary of the South African media conglomerate Naspers, for $1.8 billion. At the time, it looked like a triumphant exit. A huge win. The founders, the investors, everyone got paid. But now, in retrospect, overlay that acquisition date on the decline graph. June 2021, the founders, Jeff Atwood and Joel Spolsky, sold at almost the mathematically perfect moment. Whether they knew what was coming or simply recognized a phenomenal offer is a question only they can answer. But the result was the same. They got out at the top. The founders built a rocket ship, rode it to the edge of space, and parachuted out just before it started falling back to Earth. Beautiful for them, devastating for everyone still on board. The failure no one talks about. There's one more failure in this story, and it might be the simplest, most avoidable one of all. Stack Overflow never paid the people who made it worth $1.8 billion. Sit with that. Millions of developers, billions of words of technical content, thousands upon thousands of meticulously crafted, detailed, carefully formatted answers, each one representing minutes, sometimes hours, of a skilled professional's time. All of it donated, for free, for reputation points with no monetary value, for green checkmarks that exist only on a screen, for the warm feeling of helping a stranger. And that was fine as long as the social contract held, as long as it felt like a community. But when the company sold for $1.8 billion, when the data was licensed to OpenAI and Google, the people who created all of that value received nothing. Not a share, not a bonus, not a thank you email with a check attached. Nothing. Other platforms figured this out. Twitter pays verified users based on post engagement. Substack lets writers earn directly from subscribers. Even Reddit explored contributor compensation programs. Stack Overflow could have done the same. Pay the top 1,000 answerers. Create a bounty system with real money. Share a percentage of enterprise revenue with contributors whose answers were used in Stack Overflow for teams. Set up a creator fund. Something. Anything. The options were obvious. Endless. Available for years. Instead, they treated free labor as a given, an entitlement, a resource to be extracted, not rewarded. And when the AI alternative showed up, when there was suddenly zero tangible reason to contribute, is it any wonder the contributors walked away? What's left? And what we lost? Stack Overflow still exists. As of today, the lights are on. The site loads. You can still search it. You can still find answers, millions of them archived, indexed, still useful in many cases. But the community, that's gone. Scattered to Discord servers, to AI chatbots, to private Slack channels, to the void. The company has rebranded its future around Overflow AI, an attempt to bolt artificial intelligence onto the platform and sell AI-powered knowledge management to enterprise customers. The pivot is underway. Maybe it works. Maybe the enterprise AI play finds traction. Maybe Stack Overflow reinvents itself. But the Stack Overflow that mattered? The one that changed the world? That Stack Overflow is gone. And it's not coming back. Younger developers will never know what it felt like. That 2 a.m. moment. Your code is broken. You've been staring at the same error for an hour. You're exhausted, frustrated, considering a career change. And you Google the error message, one last try, and there it is. A Stack Overflow answer. Written 3 years ago, by a stranger in another country. Someone who had the exact same problem. And they didn't just solve it, they explained it. Step by step. With a little green checkmark that meant the community had verified it. And suddenly, the code works. The bug is gone. You lean back in your chair and exhale. And somewhere, on the other side of the world, a person you'll never meet has just saved your night. That was Stack Overflow. And there are lessons in its ashes. Lessons for every tech company, every platform. Your community is not your product. Your community is your boss. Stack Overflow didn't die because of AI models. That was just the final blow. If you found this video valuable, subscribe and hit the bell icon. We cover the rise and fall of the biggest companies in tech. Drop a comment below. Did Stack Overflow help you become a developer? Do you remember your first Stack Overflow answer? Or your first Stack Overflow rejection? We'd love to hear your story. Until next time.